Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Sorry, I just had a drink, some Ribena, and it's gone down the wrong way. So, you're looking at a very sad Vicky Marie chats this morning. I just feel such an overwhelming sadness for Madeleine, for Madeleine Soto. So the Madeleine Soto case, we followed it, haven't we, right from day one, which I think it was February the 13th, wasn't it, last year when Madeleine went missing? Wasn't it the same day that Sebastian Rogers went missing? And unfortunately, or fortunately, which way you look at it, because of course nobody still knows what happened to Sebastian, it was discovered quite quickly what had happened to Madeleine, but unfortunately, she was deceased, wasn't she? Her body was found. And not only that, as if that's not bad enough, it turned out that Madeleine had actually been being abused for many years, from a very young age, by sinister Stephan Stearns, her sort of pseudo stepfather. Don't know if you could call him a stepfather, because he and Jen, Madeleine's mother, Jen Soto, they never married, did they? Or, and it was a very on-off relationship. So I don't know if you could call him really a stepfather. He was like a pseudo stepfather. Yeah, and probably from the age of 8 or even younger. Madeleine, it turned out, had been being abused by this man. And not only that, he had recorded all the images, videos, on his phone. He had about 600, over 600 CP images, most of which I think were Madeleine. So, anyway, Stephan was arrested and charged with the CP images on his phone, and then later on was actually charged with the murder of Madeleine. And Madeleine, this was the last day she was alive, or that we know of. We don't know what time she died, but this was a birthday party on the Sunday, sometime after that birthday party. And before she was supposed to go to school the next morning, Madeleine's young life was just extinguished by Stephan Stearns. Now, will we ever find out what actually happened? So we're in a position now where Stephan, he asked for a plea deal on both. He was just about to start his trial for the CP images and videos, etc., on his phone. And he decided to take a plea deal, and a plea deal for both charges, for both the charges of the things on his phone and for the murder of Madeleine, which was supposed to be, the trial was supposed to be happening later this year. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the plea deal that he took. We're going to watch the plea hearing. We're going to hear the victim impact statements. And, this sadness that I feel, because these photos, we've got so used to looking at Madeleine's little face. We feel like we know her, even though obviously we don't. But there's never going to be, again, whenever I see these photos, there's never going to be any new photos of Madeleine, apart from what's already been in the public domain and what photos that have already been taken. Madeleine is frozen in time at 13 years old. She won't become a woman. She won't have children. She won't get married. She won't graduate from high school. She won't have a career. She won't do any of those things because Madeleine is deceased. And I think this is like a finality of Stephan taking that plea deal, and he's been sentenced as well, all in one day, all in one court hearing, after, over a year of the police collecting evidence. We've looked at evidence, we've looked at interviews, all that. And then he just takes a plea deal. Is it fair? Is it justice? Or is it a good thing that he took the plea deal? That's what we're going to be looking at. And what did the plea deal consist of? Very strange to me to plead no contest to a murder charge. To plead no contest. What the hell does that mean? No contest. So you're not saying it's not said he's guilty. He's not stood up there and said I am guilty. You know, so it makes you quite angry, really. But anyway, first of all, before we get into it, I want to say thank you to all of you for liking, for subscribing. Special thank you to all of you who've cared about Madeleine, followed this case from day one. Madeleine is at the centre of this case, and at the end of the day, it's Stephan Stearns that did what he did to her. I think a lot of people, maybe in her family, even friends, etc., will be kicking themselves now for not seeing signs. But you know, Stephan Stearns, he's a manipulator. There's loads of them out there. Won't be the first time, and it won't be the last time that a case like this has happened. Somebody inveigling themselves into a family. Maybe some of the family members, like the grandma, apparently was thinking, oh, there's something a little bit strange. She didn't like him. But all the others, he was in the family. Even Madeleine's biological father did not suspect Stephan. So I don't think you can ever underestimate how manipulative people can be. Stephan's a prime example, isn't he? Because he's not an aggressive man, is he? He's not aggressive. He'll have groomed Madeleine for so long, and not only that, groomed her whole family. Anyway, so special thank you, of course, to my members. I think this week in Members Live we might have a full look at Stephan's arrest and unedited, and let him suffer a bit of humiliation. I'd just love to see Stephan Stearns being humiliated. I'd like to spread it right across the internet for what he did to Madeleine. He deserves thank you so much. Any of you that support my channel in any positive way, really, really thank you. But a special thank you for caring about the victims that we talk about, especially people like Madeleine. You know, I think the reason why I feel so sad, because I feel like it's sort of an ending to a case now after he's pled guilty. He's been sentenced. Well, he hasn't pled guilty. He's pled no contest. He's been sentenced. But of course, it's not a finality for, Madeleine's family who have to live without her. And of course, it feels like an ending, but it's not an ending, is it? Because the pain carries on. Everyone involved in this case will have a life sentence of pain and hurt to cope with, and the loss of Madeleine. And Madeleine, of course, has lost everything. But anyway, I hope she's sort of safe where she is now, flying free around the universe or in the arms of Jesus, whichever way you want to look at it. I just hope she's at zone. Now, so he's taken this plea deal. So he has pled guilty to the offences of having, pictures of Madeleine, videos, hundreds and hundreds, on his phone in compromising positions. And in the videos, Madeleine looks like she's asleep, the police said. So she was drugged. She was obviously drugged, and that's why she was tired at school. Maybe sometimes she didn't even realise what had been happening to her in the middle of the night. I still feel on that fateful night that maybe Stephan gave her something, went off waiting for it to work, he said he used to wander around the house and that. And when he went back to Madeleine, I feel that maybe she had passed then. Maybe he gave her too much. But then, of course, there's all this speculation about her being strangled. And, of course, now it's not coming to a court case. We won't find out for sure. Even, is it clear for sure? if that's how she died. I don't know. I don't know what's going to come out now that the case is over. And this is what's so irritating about this deal that Stephan has taken, because he's taken a plea deal. He's confessed to those pictures and videos and things and pled guilty. But as far as the red rum of Madeleine is concerned, he has pled no contest. So that's not admitting guilt, is it? That's just saying I'm not contesting it. It's not guilty. He's not stood there and said, I confess, I red rum to Madeleine. And this is how I did it, and this is why I did it. Nobody's ever going to find out. There's only Stephan and, of course, Madeleine, who's not with us any longer, that know exactly what happened that night. And that's a bit, you just think that's annoying that he hasn't had to stand there and actually admit his guilt. Face everyone and admit his guilt. Now, he had to sit through all the victim impact statements, which were very emotional. And just a bit of a spoiler alert, because we're going to watch it, but Jen was not there. Jen Soto was not there. And, read of that what you will. I know it was while I was watching it on Court TV or whatever, a lot of people, a lot of people are very down on Jen. I know that. I'm not commenting about Jen, because to me, Jen didn't do it. Jen is guilty of not being a very good mum, maybe, and totally sort of obsessed with herself. But I'm still not convinced that Stephan wasn't drugging her as well. And I feel that it's unfair to blame Jen for everything, because none of that family, even Madeleine's biological father, they didn't do enough either. So, I think it's unfair to give Jen all the blame, because Jen is living without her daughter now. And not only that, she's got to live with the fact that she invited that predator, not only invited him into their home, but sent Madeleine off to bed with him. I really think Jen just was so oblivious to everything. That's my opinion. I know people have a different opinion, and that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their thoughts. But she wasn't there. She didn't give a victim impact statement. I think Stephan will be reaching out to Jen again, because that's sort of personally what he is. Whether she will respond or not, I don't know. I mean, she could be totally wrecked mentally, for all we know. Why did she not turn up there? Or maybe she was given advice not to turn up there because people would have been nasty to her. No doubt people would have been nasty to Jen. And to me, she's coping with enough as it is. So Jen knows what she did or what she didn't do. And if she's guilty of anything more than being thicko and not seeing what was right in front of her face, then that's for her to, that's for her. God will judge her on that. I'm not going to judge her on that, because I think there's a lot of women out there take men into their, and men who take women into their homes, as sort of pseudo step parents to their children, and don't realise, what a viper they've taken into their bosom. I personally, that's how I feel. So, and there'll be loads of people out there now don't even know what their partner is doing. Might even be their, the child's biological father. Just don't know what's going on sometimes. It's quite scary, so that makes me sad as well, because, Madeleine looked like a happy child, didn't she? She seemed to be close to Stephan. I think Stephan groomed Madeleine with love, not with violence. That's how they work. It's not all about aggression. He'll have groomed her with love, buying her things. He's like about 12 in his head anyway. How childish he is with his big purple dragon and his PlayStation games and his Warhammer and his, Tamagotchis and what have you. He's like a 40-year-old man still acting as if he's 13. So that's how he'll have got around Madeleine. And Jen, I think, just didn't see Stephan as any sort of threat or because also he wasn't really very sex active with her. I think she sort of thought him as almost asexual. I don't know, she just didn't see it. She just did not see it. And then, of course, you've got his parents. I wonder what they think of it all now that he's coming out and, actually took the plea deal. Anyway, sorry, I'm waffling a little bit. Hi, Annie. Yeah, well, I don't think we'll ever see Jen. How can we? She may even change her name, or because she'll be terrible. Could you imagine, Jen? It's a bit like Katie Proudfoot, isn't it? The public end up hating them so much, even though they haven't actually done anything or nothing that they've been prosecuted for. They won't want to appear in public. Should probably, if people should have to change their appearance, maybe change their name. It's because mud sticks, doesn't it? Even though there is no evidence. But most people are really angry towards Jen, even if they don't think she actually did anything. They're really angry towards her for neglecting to protect her daughter. But as I say, when we look at these victim impact statements, who did protect Madeleine? Nobody did. But then is that because Stephan covered it all up so well? I think you've got to be careful of blaming other people for what Stephan did. Stephan did it. Stephan abused her. Stephan took the photos. Stephan took the videos. Stephan murdered her eventually. Stephan raped her while she was, sedated or whatever. He did it. Nobody else did it. Now, people might have made it easier for him by not realising what a monster he was. But I think you've got to be careful from taking away how evil he is. But, he's still Mr. Prissy, Stephan. He's like, when he came to give his statement at the end, like, we'll see. Oh, my God, I was gasping, absolutely gasping, that he would have the cheek to say what he said and to say it in the way that he said it. He couldn't just stand there and be sorry. And maybe even say, like, nobody else had anything to do with this. I take full responsibility. Blah, de, blah, de, blah. No. I mean, he's practically blaming God at one point, I think. Everything's everybody else's fault. He didn't mean it. He didn't mean to take 600 photos and videos. Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. Oh, I've took that photo again. Oh, my God. Oh, another one. How many is that? 270. Oh, another one. 271. Like as if it was as if he's accidentally set the video rolling, or, it's just incredible that he can try and make everyone feel sorry for him. He even said that about how his loss, how, Maddie was a joy. Yes, she was a joy to you. She was a special joy to you because you've been raping her since she was 7 years old. She was a joy. God, I was fuming when I heard him speak. How dare he? How dare he even say that? Yeah, she would have been more of a joy if you didn't rape her or kill her. God, he's just oblivious. Absolutely oblivious, this man. All he's caring about is his loss of Madeleine. And I really don't think he killed her on purpose, because I think he was having too good a time with Madeleine. Said that right from the beginning. Unless she did maybe threaten to expose him, or I still don't think he would have killed her. It doesn't strike me as an aggressive person. Something happened where it went wrong. Maybe he just lost control in a moment. Or maybe he drugged her and he gave her too much. Will we ever know? Because now he's taken this plea deal. He doesn't have to say what happened. It's just no contest. So he doesn't have to reveal what actually happened. So that seems like, although it's sort of justice, obviously, because he's going to prison for the rest of his life, still doesn't feel right, does it? That nobody gets to know what actually happened, and all the work that the police have done. God, do you know how many images I've got on my phone from those document dumps that they sent me and what have you? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And the police have gone through all that painstaking work. And now he's just taking a plea deal. I mean, it's just like, he should be charged for that. I don't know, like money-wise, or not that he hasn't got any money anyway, but it's sort of like justice, but not quite justice, because he doesn't have to say anything he doesn't have to face the music. All he had to do was sit there through those victim impact statements. He probably detached and went off into his Tamagotchi world or whatever. He's probably playing Genshin Impact or some stupid game up in his head, and cutting off, not listening to those people. Anyway, doesn't feel like justice. Doesn't feel like justice, does it? Yeah, and I think he probably has drugged Jen. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, high Friday tie date. Yeah, complete manipulative. I agree. I'm not like defending her in the sense of she should have been more switched on. Of course she should. But, we don't know, because she wasn't in a good place anyway, was she? So, and then if he was definitely doubling up on her medication, I think. Probably even that night, he doubled up on her medication. So he didn't want her waking up while he's in the middle of abusing Madeleine. And don't forget, the other people that were living in that house, they didn't know either. It wasn't only Jen. Nobody knew. Nobody suspected. He was probably going around slipping bloody sedatives into everyone's cocoa. I mean, don't forget, he had a history of it. He was supposed to have put SEMEN in girls' drinks when he was at high school, thinking it might make them pregnant. He's a disgusting man. Disgusting. That's the real Stephan Stearns. And then he gets all prissy like about other people. When he was talking about his friends, he'd been talking about, do they know that they're not supposed to do that? Yeah, well, you're not supposed to abuse 6-7-year-old girls, Stephan, but it didn't stop you, did it? It's just crazy. Anyway, in another way, he had to take a plea deal, really, didn't he? Because he would have got the death penalty. And his defence had tried to get the judge to rule that these videos and pictures couldn't be produced in court. Now, when that failed, really, I mean, because if they would have been successful with that, there would have been no case against Stephan. If the defence would have managed to get the court for whatever reason, because they were trying to say that the police had not requested permission to look at everything, they were trying to challenge the procedure that the police went through. Anyway, the judge wasn't having any of that, so he just said, no. So really, he had to take a plea deal. So he was clearly guilty. You can't argue with photos and videos, can you? And don't forget, they'd taken those pictures of Stephan's button mushroom. He's got that distinctive freckle on it. I've seen it in technical glory, to prove that it was his button mushroom performing these acts on Madeleine, to prove. So really, he had to plead guilty in that case. And then why he's gone ahead to plead guilty about the murder, I don't know. Maybe, again, not guilty, no contest. Must remember, he hasn't pled guilty. He's pled no contest. And I'd like to be a fly on the wall in his phone calls with his parents now. I bet he's still saying to his parents, trying to insinuate somebody else had something to do with it, like Jen maybe, or anybody, and they'll be like, well, they're like, what did his mum call him? An empath. He's not an empath. Stephan Stearns an empath. An empath would never do those horrible things to a child. Oh my God, that's what his mummy said about him. Fruit Loop. Anyway, never mind. Oh, so the other thing I just wanted to say is, hi, David. So the reason that I'm sort of glad, if you like, I'm glad that he's pled guilty as far as the images and that are concerned, because, you know, it would have been horrible for Madeleine's been, you know, humiliated enough through her young life, hasn't she? And then the thought of, you know, going to court, all those pictures, images, videos being shown, and you know what it's like, then they end up on social media and God knows what. That would be awful for Madeleine. So I'm glad for that reason. I'm glad. And even with the no contest about the murder, I'm glad, because all the gory details, you know, it's an insult to Madeleine's memory, isn't it? But I wish he would have pled guilty rather than no contest. Just, he's a horrible man. Exactly, Annie. You don't get less empathetic than Stephan Stearns, do you? That's what his mum said. He's an empath. He loves animals. Hitler loved animals. Lots of people love animals that do terrible things. So Hitler, perhaps he was an empath, eh? Maybe Hitler was an empath. Yeah. Anyway, so, you know, so I'm glad for that reason, but I'm sorry that he won't be made to actually say what happened to Madeleine, you know, own up to what a horrible person he is. And, you know, as for Jen, I'm not going to criticise Jen. There's plenty of YouTube channels out there. They're all over Jen like a rash. To me, it's not fair, because if the police thought she'd done anything, she would have been arrested by now. She's not the best mother in the world. But then I'm not the best mother in the world. Who is, you know? I don't know. I think Stephan could get round people, because he comes over as so inoffensive. You know, he's like, he just come over like that, doesn't he? He's like, poor me. You know, he's like a big man baby. We saw that right at the beginning when Madeleine went missing and Jen was comforting him. He's like this man baby. I think Jen just really could not believe that Stephan could have done this to Madeleine. Even though when she was shown the photos, I think she just was in complete denial. I wouldn't, you know, I hope she's okay. I think she's going through a lot, not only losing her daughter, but finding out that she bears some responsibility for it, even though it was unwitting. I just don't know how she's coping with losing Madeleine and, you know, the responsibility that she bears. But it won't only be her. So we're going to see the victim impact statements, and you see, I bet there's a few of them that feel guilty that they did not see. So apparently she had a brilliant birthday party as far as the victim impact statements were concerned. I'm glad she looks happy. I hope she had a great day. But she didn't know that was her last day on earth, was it? Poor Madeleine. I think everyone let Madeleine down, really. But anyway. So let's have a look at the court hearing from the beginning. I'll probably chip in every now and again with a little comment like getting really angry. But I'll try not to interfere too much so you can hear.
I pray to God.
What's going on? We're going to watch the whole thing bit by bit. So get tea. And let's see. Wait, get to the beginning. So here they come. One thing I noticed during this court hearing, some of the police, like in the court, like this guy and others, the way sometimes they were looking at Stephan, you know, they must think, God, just give me 5 minutes in a room with him. Because a lot of them, they'll have children themselves, you know. And what Stephan did is, it's the worst, isn't it? Can't get much worse. We've got the abuse, followed by murder. What more can you do? Years of abuse culminating with murder of that girl. So, you know, how much worse can you get, really? Here it is. I bet he didn't want to go there that day. At least the judge made him turn up. Look at him looking at him. You know, that guy then. Sorry, I just got to look at it because I do like to see things like that. When, you know, people are looking at him with contempt. Do like to see that because we always have to remember, look at that guy's face. We always have to remember there's a lot of good men in the world. There's a lot of brilliant stepdads out there, adoptive dads, etc., or father figures. You know, we can't let someone like Stephan make us think that all men are